And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, January 18th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by a dollar store version of Gundacker. We are here to break down a two-game NBA slate, and we are brought to you by No House Advantage. Hit that like button if you get a chance. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Wish we had more basketball games, but huge hockey slate, so I'm excited for that.
2 games today. I think there's 11. There may be more tomorrow, and then there's 3 again on Thursday. So just real blast of a week in terms of NBA DFS. Let me double check it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. No, 13 tomorrow. 3 on Thursday, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 on Friday. 13 game slates just don't need to exist.
Yeah, I hate when the schedule gets into this pattern where it's like a bunch of games and then no games, and then a bunch of games and no games. Just give me like 5 to 9 every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't ever give me 2. 3, right. I can handle 3. Don't give me 2. It's nonsense. Makes no sense. Well, we have not a lot to talk about and way too much time to do it. So we're going to take our sweet time, working our way through it. Dave Jones, member for 3 months, said he won $200 on a DraftKings contest last night. Dave, that's awesome. Congratulations. I hope that you didn't have to enter with more than $200. I assume, since you're telling us, that was actually a big win. So congratulations to you on that one, Dave. Nothing good yesterday, man. I don't know. The chopped up slates across all the sites really just took the wind out of the sails of everything that you could be doing yesterday, along with some of the outputs. Like Devin Booker went crazy, but I feel like it just gets lost in the shuffle because of how awful everything was planned yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with it. Like, it would have been fun if it had just been like an all-day Christmas Day type slate, I think. But at the same time, like, I know I would have also kind of hated it because it just would have been a pain with news and everything.
Sure.
So, like, I was okay with the way they broke it up. I always like having multiple decent slates, decent sized slates. Like, I wish the first game had been more than 3, or first slate rather had been more than 3 games. But
if they went 6-6 instead of 3-3-6 or whatever the breakdown was, that's better.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And then,
but yeah, just
being different than FanDuel also doesn't help. Like,
what you said,
the hour early lock for FanDuel leading into the later lock for DraftKings. Like, I hate that nonsense too. From a content creation perspective,
I would actually like it if I played, but like if I played FanDuel, I mean.
Sure, I see where you're going there. It's really hard to make content when you have to talk about slates in like a different context too. It's already hard enough to talk about it with different salary structures and like, this guy's a good play here, but he's $1,500 more expensive there. When you take out another game, that changes the entire scope of it too. Just makes it tough
for
to
sure.
talk
like
about.
It's because like obviously I skew very DraftKings heavy when I talk about like games, but whatever analysis I'm saying applies to FanDuel as well, and you can kind of figure out for yourself how the salary works. But when you add that extra game, like, it just changes everything. Like I know Lofty asked me yesterday about somebody, I think DeJounte Murray, and I was like, oh, he comes in behind, like the other 3 guys, because I'm like referring to Giannis, who's not even on the DraftKings slate.
Yeah, it'll trip you up there from time to time. You ready to dive into this one? It's not the most illustrious slate in the world. So at 7:30, we've got the Minnesota Timberwolves, owner of the 3rd fastest pace via my pace metric, taking on the New York Knicks. Dead last in pace right now, which I feel like wasn't the case earlier in the season. Now that they no longer employ point guards with any sort of regularity, these guys don't move the ball quickly. Dead last in pace. Then, just in case that game didn't tickle your fancy enough, late night hammer. Pistons are 14.5 point dogs in Golden State, and Golden State is already without Draymond Green, who, one of the best defensive players in basketball, and they're still going to get beat by 2 touchdowns here. What a slate. Enjoy this one, everybody. We're going to start it out with the Minnesota Timberwolves, 2-point favorites in New York. And next, I'm going to look that up to make sure that I'm right. Are we really saying Minnesota's better than the Knicks in New York. Did I type that in wrong?
No, Minnesota.
I did not.
Minnesota -3.
Wow. Wild. All righty. Well, let's start with it then. Not as much ownership as I was expecting coming into the Minnesota side. However, that's what happens when you play a team and lose 4 possessions off of your baseline because of the Knicks being so slow. We've got Towns, 9,600 on FanDuel, 10,200 on DraftKings. He's picking up a ton of ownership on FanDuel at that price, 52%. But on DK, Towns, Edwards, Russell, Vanderbilt, and Beverly, all between 20 and 30% owned. And for the most part, that's how I see them. They look really similar relative to salary. I don't like Beverly nearly as much as the public does. I generally don't either. Do you see anything that stands out for Minnesota?
Not really. I see it the same way you do. It seems like most of these guys are pretty much just getting the ownership they deserve. Obviously, everyone is aware that Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards are all high upside options. They're all likely to play a lot of minutes if this game's competitive. But they're also just pulling the ownership that it looks like they deserve. Beverly, it looks like he's going a little bit over-owned. We have him with a 31% ownership projection, 25% optimal percentage, but he is also at a pretty decent price point at 5,500. And I think there's a chance that he plays a couple minutes more than maybe the 27 or 28 that people are projecting. He played 25 and a half minutes last game, but that was a game that the Timberwolves blew out the Warriors. He didn't play at all in the fourth. He had been on a loose minutes restriction previously. Then he plays, 25 and a half minutes in 3 quarters. It wouldn't shock me if you got 30 or 32 minutes out of Beverly.
See, I gave him 28. Maybe that's the issue in this spot.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Like in the first half last game, he played like 16 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if at that pace, clearly 30 is in the cards.
And then he opened the third quarter with another 8, like almost 9.
Yeah. I'll bump him up to 30. I'll feel a little bit better about it. It's not like I want to get to anybody else in this game for this, or like the bench guys. I mean, it's a tough sell here. How do we separate Towns, Edwards, and Russell, or don't we?
I don't really think there's a whole lot like differentiating them. I think that if it gets to a situation closer to lock where there's like a big gap in ownership where one of them is getting less, that's the one that I would want to go to the most. But yeah, I mean, right now, I guess it makes Edwards the guy that I really like in tournaments out of the 3. He's getting 22% compared to 27 for Russell, 29 for Towns. But I think they're all very similar.
Okay. And I don't have much to add on the Towns price, like 9,600 for Towns on a 2-gamer on FanDuel. Like there's only so many centers that you could roster. 2 of them on the Knicks are value at best. It's Isaiah Stewart, value at best on Detroit. It's value at best on Golden State. Towns is just a completely different center option on FanDuel today than basically everybody else that could possibly be played. Here are the centers that I gave minutes to on FanDuel for today. Obviously, Towns, 9,600. We can talk about the fact that Julius Randle has center eligibility on FanDuel, which is just absolutely preposterous. Of all the teams to not give that, how often do you think Julius Randle is actually moving to a small ball 5 lineup, maybe 1 minute a game on average?
It's been never. There's been early in the season, I kept kind of hoping that would be a thing and trying to make it happen in my projections, and it's just never. It hasn't been a thing.
There might not be a more firm positional designation other than a 6-foot point guard than Julius Randle as an only power forward.
Right? Is he only center eligible, or is he
power forward center?
Oh, okay.
He's both. Which I guess is fine. It's so wildly incorrect.
Right. But yeah, I guess it's I'd still rather it go that way than LeBron in the center.
Center only. Yeah, for sure. Towns and Randall, or you're going Looney, Mitchell Robinson, Naz Reid, Nerlens Noel / Taj Gibson, whoever is actually available for it. And then I gave Luka Garza 5 minutes. No surprises that you want to get to Karl-Anthony Towns at the center spot on FanDuel. I mean, you don't really have many other choices. It's either punt or hope that Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't double-double.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing on DraftKings, really. Looking at Alex's projections, Karl-Anthony Towns projects 18 points higher than the next highest center, which is Trey Lyles, who we know is very volatile. That could very easily, be lower. I
have it 19 points, but I have it as Mitchell Robinson, but it's the same point.
Right. Yeah, Lyles, Vanderbilt, Robinson, Stewart all kind of lumped in there together. But yeah, I mean, you could very easily just be getting a 20 to 30 point gap between Towns and whoever the next highest scoring center is.
What do we do with the bench of Minnesota? I think the answer is just close your eyes and point if you have to do it. But Jaden McDaniels, a guy that normally gets enough minutes where like value matters. He's 3,500. He stinks from a DFS perspective, but he's probably going to be in like 10% of lineups. Malik Beasley is somehow like really terrible now, even though I thought he was going to be better. He isn't at all. Again, though, 4,400 on DraftKings, probably a guy that you're going to end up with 10% of if you're a 150 maxer by default. And then maybe today is the day that Jalen Noel also plays 24 minutes again. Who the hell knows? I don't trust this team at all.
No, it's tough because like Noel's priced up too. I'd be interested there if he were like 3,600 or something, because he does produce when he's on the floor and he does have at least a path to getting like 22 to 24 minutes. But he's up to 4,200. He's basically priced for that role. Like the bench, I think, is priced correctly. Basically, Noel's pretty expensive. Beasley's pretty expensive relative to what he produces. McDaniels is the cheapest option, but he sucks, like you said. In tournaments, maybe some Naz Reid, just hoping that you get like Towns foul trouble or something. Reid on average is going to play like 12 or 13 minutes, I would expect. He's 3,900 with power forward eligibility. If Towns loses 4 minutes for one reason or another, maybe you get a decent Naz Reid game. Certainly not something I would be considering outside of a 2-game slate.
Would you be willing to play Naz Reid and Karl Anthony Towns together?
No.
Okay.
Well, actually,
I think you need like 90 from them to hit a dual boom.
So here's the question is, and the reason I reconsidered is you could run a Reid Towns lineup against Randall Robinson.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Like, I don't think they necessarily will or have to, but they could. In which case, like,
since he has power forward, I don't hate it near. Like, if it was just center and center, like obviously you could still get both of those guys. That you're really locking down, but I think with the flexibility, like I don't think it's crazy.
Like it still comes down to if you think that there's a chance Reid plays alongside Towns, because even with him being power forward, like for Towns to pay off 10-2, he probably needs to get his 35, 36 minutes, which if they're not playing alongside each other means you're getting 12 minutes from Reid.
I apologize for laughing during the middle of what you were saying, but Randall Robinson is in chat right now. Just, like, what are the odds of that? Like, I couldn't help it.
That's
like,
awesome.
I just wasn't ready for it. I saw against me and I was like, what are we talking about? And then I realized that was just like the name combination that you just gave us. So that's fine. If there's a Reid Towns in here today, we're going to have a real problem.
Yeah.
Also a functional name. Like that could happen.
It could. So I know they've played alongside each other a little bit this year. I want to see how much they actually have.
Well, you do that.
I mean, the short answer here is it's a 2-game slate. So yes, you can play them together. I still wouldn't feel great about it. Okay. Reid has played a total of 73 minutes with Towns on the floor.
You need them. I don't want to say need, but like 90 fantasy points is their booms. Like if you hit their boom together, like it just like everything is a dream scenario. That's 1.88 fantasy points per minute for the
There's
combination.
like no chance in hell that they're getting 90 points together.
No, I mean, I think the chances of that are like 1% or something along those lines. But I think you'd be happy with like 80 between the two.
I don't even know how they're doing that.
50, 30? I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah, how the hell is Reid getting 30 if Towns gets 50? I
don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just saying that's 1.67 fantasy points per minute.
You need.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just providing this. If you want to tell me that it sucks, then all we're doing is ending up with the answer of don't play them together.
So if you're going into this saying that you think you need 80 points from these guys, then don't play them together. I'm thinking of it more in terms of, can Reid play enough minutes to be better than the other sub 4K options on this slate?
That's fair. I'm with you. I don't think that I would want to do it, and I don't think it would be showing up all that frequently. And you have to be making the bet that Naz Reid is playing 18 minutes instead of 13 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with that one. Chances are I just don't get there. But
yeah, agreed. We have more than enough time to talk about these ridiculous combinations, because on a 2-game slate, these ridiculous combinations pop up way more frequently than they ever should.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally, if and when I get to Reid, I would rather just not be with Towns.
That's fair. Rules for Minnesota, I think you could kind of just do whatever you want for the 5 starters.
Yeah, the starters are all fine. We didn't mention Jared Vanderbilt either. He's perfectly fine. 5,700, probably playing around 30 minutes, leading rebounder on the team. No issues with him either.
All righty. Yeah, works for me. I actually have.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want more than.
I have Jared Vanderbilt as the best play from the team, so relative to salary at least.
Yeah, I don't think I would want more than like one of Noel Beasley together.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think I have anything else for Minnesota. Pretty easy team, all things considered.
Yeah, kind of just a bunch of guys that exist and are priced correctly.
Yeah. All righty. Well, schedule for the rest of the day. NFL strategy show coming up at 11 a.m. Got the PGA strategy show coming up at 1 o'clock. Make sure you guys are watching the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. Myself, Ben Raza, giving our outright bets for this week's Amex. Spoiler alert for those that are actually going to watch it. Ben and I had the same outright, and we didn't know that. We don't tell each other our picks as we're getting into the show. He went first, I went second, and he just immediately went into the one golfer that I chose for the video. So we had the same pick. Keep your eyes peeled for that. NHL strategy show coming in at 2. The No House Advantage NBA show coming in at 3:30. Adam will be back for the deeper dive at 5. Enjoy that one. Second hour of this one. And then NBA Live Before Lock coming up at 6. We've got free NBA player rankings. We've got free PGA rankings. And then we've got free NHL top stacks all for today. Now we move it on to the New York Knicks. Now the Knicks get the benefit of facing Minnesota. They get the opposite of the awful matchup. They get the pace up spot. Now everything's a pace up spot for the Knicks in general, but this one in particular, massive. They gain like 3 extra possessions because they're so slow. Let's talk about Julius Randle to start. $8,400 power forward center on FanDuel. To me, very clearly the best play of the day. He's 76% owned as well, so deal with that however you want. If you're trying to get away from him, fire up your Obi Toppins. Power forward eligibility on DK only, 9,200, 50% owned. We've got RJ Barrett in the 40s. We've got Alec Burks close to 40. Fournier and Robinson and Quickly all in the 20s. But the biggest question mark for this game today, the same question mark we had last time. It's the question mark next to Kemba Walker's name. Is he in? Is he out? What do we know?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. It seems like he's been questionable for like 2 weeks now. But
I projected him in.
I have him out right now, but
I don't like in these situations. If you're questionable for multiple days in a row, I just have to start putting you in because otherwise I don't know why you're questionable.
Well, yeah, agreed. It's also the first game of the night, so I just don't really care.
Oh, yeah, it won't matter. We'll know.
Yeah. But if he's out, then I expect the same starting lineup that we've been getting with Burks, Fournier, Barrett, Randall, Robinson. If he's in, I don't know if he comes off the bench or rejoins the starting lineup. If he moves into the starting lineup, it's most likely in place of Burks, which would be bad for Burks' playing time. And then if Kemba's back, it also makes the Fournier/Quickly combination a little bit more dangerous just because you could have Burks kind of cutting into those minutes as well.
You think if Kemba's back, he starts? He shouldn't, right? Like he shouldn't. He just shouldn't. A logical coach is not going to go play him 34 minutes today in the starting lineup.
I mean, I don't know. He was playing really well before his injury.
Yeah, but like it's not like his injury was, Kemba Walker broke his wrist. It's like, Kemba Walker is injured the part of him that is always injured when he plays too much.
That's true.
Like
he
any reasonable person should look at this and be like, the best that we can do for you is like a strong 6-man role.
Yeah, put him in the Derrick Rose role.
Right. That's where I have him for right now. Tibbs can play him 36 minutes today if he's in, and like no one should be shocked. Here's the biggest problem.
If he starts, assume he's playing starter minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him any lower than 30 if he's starting.
Right.
By the way, Kemba Walker is 4,900 on FanDuel. What a swing piece that we might not get information on until like 7:15.
He's how much?
4,900.
Oh wow.
You go from basically not playing him. Like I ran my Sims. I gave him 20 minutes at a fantasy point per minute, and I still got him in 11%. You're going to go from like basically not having him to him getting ruled in somehow and starting at 701 and go from a 10% guy to like a 60% guy. Changes the entire slate just by whether or not he's in the starting lineup. And we won't know. We probably won't know that information until 7 o'clock. The only way we know it is if he just got simply ruled out earlier in the day. It's a disaster on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's good. At 6,400, you're not going to be all that fond of him, even if he's starting. Like, he's just a guy. What's the impact to the rest of the Knicks, let's say, if Kemba Walker is in and starting? Who takes the biggest hit here?
If he's in and starting, I think Burks goes back to the bench. So I wouldn't be able to expect 36 minutes from Burks anymore. It's more likely he would play like 26 or 28 or something and really not look very good at 6,500. It would also make the Fournier quickly pieces, I think, a little bit riskier. Not that they aren't already risky, but you've been more frequently getting those like 30 to 32 minute games from Fournier, or you're getting quickly playing minutes in his place. But if Kemba's starting, then potentially you get like an uglier 3-man like rotation there where either like Grimes is still in the rotation or Burks is playing some minutes alongside Kemba or something like that. Just makes it a little bit riskier to go to those guys.
Do you think people just dramatically flock away from Quickly if Kemba is in? I'm not saying that they should or that it makes sense, because I think Quickly's minutes don't really change.
Yeah, I think probably. Like I think Quickly gets 20-ish something minutes one way or the other.
Yeah, he'll be interested. Like, that's an ownership number that I'm interested to see, because I'm not entirely sure anything changes for him, and it feels like if Kemba gets ruled in, people will just immediately get away from Quickly. Because
actually, I guess I should rephrase. How many minutes are you thinking for Quickly?
I gave him 22.
Okay, yeah, I'll say I think in that 20, 21, 22 minute range, I think he probably gets that regardless. If like I happen to see him projected for 25 minutes somewhere else, I don't think that happens if Kemba plays. I don't think that happens anyway, but
I agree. All right. I assume you and I don't have anything to say about Randall. He just looks really, really good today.
Yeah, nothing negative to say about Randall. Okay.
What about Barrett? Because everything has changed for RJ Barrett over the past 2 weeks. He's played in his last 7 games, starting with the oldest: 42, 33, 43, 31, 41, 41, 39. This dude is playing monstrous Tibbs style minutes now. Does that change if Kemba comes back? He's worse when Kemba's back. That's for sure.
I don't think it necessarily changes. So like the hesitancy I have on his playing time is what happens if he plays poorly. But he's completely changed the way he's playing. He's got a 29% usage rate over the last month. Like, that's insane. He's averaging 1.02 DraftKings points per minute. So it's not like he's become a point per minute monster or anything, but he's been way more aggressive. He's shooting way more and he's playing way more.
I gave him 36 minutes. Again, I already have Kemba in. I think that I'm giving him 36 minutes regardless. I don't know how I don't. I'd be more likely to give him more, I think, than less.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily see going to 38.
Yeah. With him in, I think it just becomes overly complicated for anybody to hit a ceiling of minutes. But like, if anybody's going to do it, it seems like it could be Randall or Barrett. His minutes are nuts as of late. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that he's playing these minutes, but he is playing these minutes. How do you feel about him at 7,200 and 7,300?
I think that's a hell of a price tag. But so at 41% ownership at 7,300, I kind of like pumping the brakes there and trying to find some other spots to get to. It's definitely, I wouldn't say he's underpriced, but if he plays another 40 minutes and, he's a point per minute guy, he's giving you a good score for 7,300. So the ownership's really important to me there. I don't really like him as the second highest owned guy on the entire slate, but I do like the playing time and I like the way he's been playing.
I want to hit on Abel Ramos's super chat. It said, Josh and Ship, are these slates good practice for the playoff slates, and will perfect game theory win the day? So I would say no. Well, any short 2-game slate like this is going to help you in the logic of lineup construction for a 2-gamer. But the rotations in a regular season game between Minnesota and the Knicks or the Pistons and the Warriors, dramatically different than the type of rotations you're going to get in the playoffs, where everybody's playing 38 to 40 and the bench is playing 10.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, it's good practice in the sense that you're going to just have to kind of pay more attention to ownership, probably end up with some lineups that don't look that good. But in the postseason, that Karl Anthony Towns, Naz Reid conversation does not exist.
No, because Karl Anthony Towns is playing 40 minutes and you're projecting Naz Reid for 8. And maybe you're like, exactly. Maybe he can get to 12 if they play alongside each other, and I'll still not play him. Now, from a showdown perspective, very different story. because Naz Reid playing 8 minutes behind Karl Anthony Towns could be fine if he's priced at $600 or whatever, like the low end of salaries are for Showdown. But on a 2-gamer, it basically makes that sort of stuff impossible, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I actually thought, and this could be wrong, but if I'm remembering correctly, I actually think I did well in the postseason last year because people were insisting on playing backups like they would in the regular season. And then the backups are playing 10 minutes. And it's like, okay, well, I couldn't quite get to, LeBron plus whoever, but I also didn't take 8 points at a roster spot.
Absolutely. Any thoughts on Fournier right now? 5,200 FanDuel, 5,500 on DraftKings. Just seems, I think the best thing about Fournier is the fact that he's shooting guard, small forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's useful. I'm definitely more concerned about him if Kemba's back, both because Kemba takes usage and because, again, I think it could just make the minutes, the rotation a little bit dirtier than it is right now. But, 5,500, if he's going to play 30 to 32 minutes, he's okay. Certainly not going to have a lot of confidence in him because it's still Evan Fournier, but we know the upside is there.
I think the biggest question mark in this game, unfortunately, is what do we do with flat 3K power forward / center Taj Gibson?
I think he's a pretty decent value.
Yeah, it's not fun to do it, but I mean, we're talking 18 minutes or so at the flat minimum, maybe more. Nothing to stop it from being more. The only complicating factor here is Jericho Sims.
Right, which he didn't play last game for whatever it's worth.
Played garbage run. He got 4 minutes.
Yeah, I am looking at the wrong last game.
He played. Oh, I don't know if it's garbage run. I just assume that it is, but he played 3.7 minutes. So, at the very least, he is functionally able to be on the floor.
Yeah,
sort of like Bismack Biyombo.
I forgot they even played yesterday, but yeah, it was garbage run.
Okay. Is Gibson a good play? Is he a great play? What do we need from him for him to matter a lot?
The guys that you are able to fit in your lineup to do well.
Thanks, man.
I mean, I don't think Gibson really matters. I don't think you necessarily on this slate, I don't think you need 25 points from Gibson or something, as long as the expensive guys that you're fitting in do well.
I just ran just a crunch with my normal sim style. He showed up in 21% of lineups. What does that do to your?
I mean, we have him projected for 5% ownership right now, which makes me absolutely love him. We have him with a 0% chance of being optimal, which that will change, I assume. I don't know how that would be possible. So yeah, I mean, if the ownership's going to be low, then I for sure like getting there.
I mean, I think I like anything under 15 or so.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's not that I think he's wildly mispriced or that I think he's a great play in a vacuum. It's just that there's only so many routes you can take on a 2-game slate.
Would you rather roster Taj Gibson or Mitchell Robinson? Obviously, I understand that they're not in the same salary tier, but who would you expect to get to more of?
At current ownership, probably Gibson.
I know that's
actually I'll rephrase that to definitely Gibson.
Yeah, if Gibson goes up to 15%, it's probably pretty close. I'd probably end up with a pretty equal amount. Follow-up question, and I think this one is very different. Would you play them together?
No. Okay. Damn it! I hate 2-game slates for this reason.
Flat 3K is different.
The thing that I come back to is from a ceiling standpoint, I wouldn't want them together because for Robinson to hit his ceiling, you're taking minutes away from Gibson. You're getting that 30 to 32 minute Robinson game instead of the 26 or 27 minute one. But on a 2-game slate, because the opportunity cost of a roster spot isn't as high, I think it becomes you have to think at least a little bit more about the fact that even at their median playing time projections, they both project as good values. So I think it's reasonable to go to them both. If this were a 4-game slate, maybe a 3-game slate, but if this were a slate where there were a lot of really good plays, I wouldn't want them together because you're just trying to maximize your ceiling between the two. But on a slate where there's not a lot of good plays, we already went through the whole Minnesota team and nobody stood out. Nobody really stands out from the Knicks outside of Randall and whatever you want to say about Barrett. So yeah, I guess I'd be okay with it as long as like more value doesn't open up between now and lock.
It helps that Mitchell Robinson is 5,400 and not priced like Towns. Like obviously, if you could flip flop Towns in this example, if Mitchell Robinson was priced like Towns, you wouldn't play him. If you want each guy to hit his boom, that's 62 fantasy points total across 48 minutes. That's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute rate. That seems so much more achievable for the two of them to combine for 62 than it did for Towns and his salary. And 62 is double boom. I don't think that's necessarily like has to happen. We're talking, is there any reason they can't go for 55 together in 48 minutes? We're talking 1.15 fantasy points per minute. That's not a stretch to me. I don't mind playing these two guys together at all. And it makes it even easier because Taj has the power forward.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's still mostly just like if this slate somehow ends up being a super high scoring slate, I think you probably aren't winning with Robinson and Gibson together. I just don't think it's likely to be a high scoring slate.
Depends who does the scoring.
Yeah,
because there's not a lot of pay up options. If Towns and Curry have 70th percentile outcomes, Gibson becomes a lot more interesting.
Sure,
probably pinches Robinson in that situation now too, but I don't mind the idea of grabbing both of them together today. 3K matters. Is there anybody else we should be talking about for the Knicks? I mean, Quentin Grimes is at 10% ownership. I don't think you can go to him at all if Kemba's in.
Terry Noel is out. Yeah, if Kemba's out, Grimes is another just reasonable value at 3,200. Probably plays 16 to 18 minutes. If Kemba's in, I doubt he's in the rotation.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if he was out there. We shall see on Kemba Walker, and obviously we're a long ways away from getting Cam Reddish in here. Do we have to say anything about Obi Toppin? I find him very uninteresting.
No, I mean he's going to play 10 minutes as long as Randall doesn't get hurt or in foul trouble. If you want to play the game where the highest owned guy on the slate gets hurt in the first quarter, how do you win? Then the answer is Obi Toppin, but not typically part of how I build my lineups.
Yeah, you and me both. Sponsor for today, No House Advantage. You've got 100% peer-to-peer contest. Over 500 player props are offered, and you can get a $25 deposit bonus when you use the promo code Awesemo. You can mass enter. You can use the No House Advantage projections that we have on the website to help you out. Or you can just use the No House Advantage optimal lineup tool, where we generate exactly what you would want at No House Advantage for you. You don't even have to put in any effort. Download the app in the App Store or go directly to No House Advantage and enter the contest today. I'm going to hit Adam with a prop or two. Let's see if there's anybody that just has a wildly incorrect line that could stand out. Like, do you want to get over 3.5 points or over 3.5 rebounds for Taj Gibson today?
Where do you go? You said over
3.5 points or 3.5 rebounds. Or if you want to combine them, 6.5 points plus rebounds.
I like the rebounds.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it. I'd be willing to take that one. Let's see. Who else stands out here now? Somebody that could fall into more or less minutes just because. No Steph props? Is that true? Yeah, no Steph for reasons that don't make a ton of sense to me. 23 and a half.
They didn't know if he was going to play, even though he's not on the injury report.
That's a good point. We'll go to RJ Barrett. Do any of these stand out to you? 16.5 points, 5.5 boards, 2.5 assists.
I like the over on all of them. The points that you said, 16.5 points.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I like the most. Like if I give him 38 minutes, he's right around there with baseline usage projections. But if you account for what he's been doing recently, it would get him over pretty easily.
I think I'd be willing to take under 10.5 points plus rebounds plus assists for Juan Toscano Anderson.
10.5 points plus rebounds plus assists.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds fine to me.
We'll take that shot. There's not many others that really jump out to me. There's no auto value that you can snap up. Alec Burks might look a little bit different, but we still got to wait on that Kemba news. No need to go to it so quickly. Josh Jackson, could potentially be interesting. Damian Lees could be potentially interesting depending on if Gary Payton is in or not. You could take some unders on Lee if Payton happens to be in. Something to pay attention to, though, folks. But thank you to No House Advantage for being the sponsor. Ready to move it on to the late night hammer?
Yeah, this should be a good one.
The Detroit Pistons are 14.5-point underdogs in Golden State. Saddiq Bey pulling 30 to 40% ownership. Cade is at 40% on DK and 68 at FanDuel, where he's still just 6K. Fire up your Cade Cunningham on FanDuel blindly today. Hamidou Diallo is in the 40s on FanDuel, just 20 on DraftKings. But it's a wide net after this. Diallo 20, Killian Hayes 20, Isaiah Stewart 25, Trey Lyles 30. We can have the conversation about why Lyles is ahead of Stewart and vice versa. Josh Jackson, Saban Lee, both pulling ownership. Let's get Saddiq Bey and Cade Cunningham out of the way. These are just two guys that are going to play 34 minutes or more potentially in and around that area. Prices are fine. They're just guys you have to play a lot of today by default.
Yeah, my concern here, and I know like we're not going to project this game to blow out for all the reasons we always talk about, but there's a real, like, it's a pretty strong part of their range of outcomes where they play like 26 minutes at 40% ownership.
Yeah, I mean, for Bey, I think it's hard to ever want to project Saddiq Bey for anything less than 30, but I get this, it's all sort of the same point. He's not a great play at 30 minutes either. Right.
I mean, you can literally just go back to their last game. There's no reason you can't get a rotation just like you did in the blowout loss to Phoenix, where Saddiq Bey plays 29 and a half. Cunningham plays 24 and a half. He got ejected, but
what a nonsense ejection, by the way.
Oh, so bad.
All this nonsense. I mean, like, did you see Russ got teed up for yamming all over Gobert last night?
No, I didn't see that. Did you see Steven Adams carrying Tony Bradley around?
Amazing. Tony Bradley doesn't say a word about it. He's not wriggling. He's just like, I understand my situation now.
No, Tony Bradley put his arms around him like you would when like your mom picks you up as a kid to make sure she doesn't drop you, and just like, yeah, whatever, man, take me wherever. He
knew at that moment that trying to do anything was just going to result in bad luck. Like,
right.
That's got to be so scary. So scary. I mean, you've seen Jimmy Butler's talking about Steven Adams setting screens on him and just like how bad it is and how much like he doesn't want to ever mess with Steven Adams at all.
No, I haven't
so
seen
good.
That, but
you got to watch the Russ dunk on Gobert.
Oh yeah, I'll find it.
All over him, and then he goes nuts and gets teed up. We got to let these guys be able to go nuts for sick dunks.
Yeah, it's dumb. Yeah, I couldn't believe the Cunningham ejection. But like, even if he doesn't get ejected there, I'm assuming he gets to like 29 minutes or something like that. He was ejected with 4 minutes and 22 seconds left in the third quarter. So if you just add those on, he basically is at 29 minutes. So the point I'm making is that I think that they are good plays. I think that as long as this game is within the realm of competitiveness, that you're not, losing an entire quarter, which is still the most likely outcome with a 14-point spread. Like this game can be a 15 to 20 point game for the entire game, and those guys are going to play in the fourth quarter. It's just you need to avoid the 35 points after three kind of thing. But that's, I guess, what concerns me. It's just like you're getting so much ownership there, and it's just like, yeah, there's still, I don't know, what, a 15-20% chance these guys don't step on the floor in the fourth.
Yeah. Not great. Well, okay, so are you telling me you expect to be light on Bey and Cunningham? And if that's the case, who benefits from Detroit? How much Saban Lee are you trying to get to today? God, the Pistons suck.
Well, that's the other part of the problem is I don't really know what to do with that either. Like, I don't want to I'm not going to just give Corey Joseph 27 minutes either. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still getting to Cunningham. I'm still getting to Bey. Like, there's only so many options today. The prices look fine. For what it's worth, in the boom bust tool, we have Cunningham going wildly under-owned right now. Bey is still under-owned, not by quite as much. But yeah, I mean, I think Detroit's a team where I probably am just taking a lot of shots at bench value, like in addition to playing Cunningham and Bey and these guys. But their rotations are just so inconsistent, combined with the fact that this game could certainly get out of hand, that I just feel better trying to take shots at like random dudes from the Pistons than I do at like guys from the Wolves or guys from the Knicks.
Lyles or Stewart?
Ownership. Like whichever one is lower owned. Right now we have Lyles at 30%. We have Stewart at 25%. I would lean Stewart, but you do have the power forward eligibility on Lyles. That's another one. Like last game, I think the rotation last game was actually more favorable for Stewart than it was for Lyles. Lyles ended up at 19.2 minutes. Stewart ended up at 22.7. But Stewart actually dealt with some foul trouble. Actually, he didn't. He just subbed out early. Stewart subbed out early in the third quarter. Lyles came in, played pretty well, but then Stewart came back in around the start of the fourth, played a little bit until they emptied the bench. So I still lean towards Stewart getting more minutes than Lyles on average. I think it's very volatile, though.
How are you projecting them, and do you project Luka Garza to play at all? Is this a 24-24 split, no Garza?
I don't think Garza plays outside of garbage time. I mean, last game they didn't play alongside each other at all. Going up against Golden State, I wouldn't expect them to be running them together either. So I think 24-24 is very reasonable. I think there's a lot of times where it ends up being like 26-22 or 27-21, but not like in either one's favor, kind of depending on how they're playing.
Yeah, I think they're really, really, really similar today. And then like I give a slight lean to Stewart because he's got the better price. And I think that he could play potentially more minutes, like if I had to bet on one of them. But then you get the Lyles power forward eligibility that I think negates the price difference, and they end up looking as similar as they can. So the ownership there will be a very interesting piece. What do we do with the rest of these guys? Corey Joseph, Killian Hayes, Josh Jackson. Like, it's just a sea of trash, which exists, unfortunately, in this world.
Yeah, I mean, nothing that's really going to stand out. Like, Josh Jackson played 4 minutes in the first half last game. I don't feel confident in his playing time, but other times he's going to play 20 to 22. Like, their bench rotations are just so difficult to trust. At 3,600 and assuming he's not getting any ownership, at 18% ownership, I'm not that interested in Josh Jackson. The price tag's really cheap, but I'm just not confident at all in his playing time. He did deal with fouls in that game, I guess, so that's worth noting. Probably plays at least like 16, if not more.
Okay.
Saban Lee, kind of the same thing. Like, he's going to have games where he plays 14 minutes. He's going to have games where he plays 18 to 20 minutes. He's really cheap. I think it's really just important to pay attention to the rules on this team.
I agree. Let's talk through those rules because this team is fully random. Bay, Cunningham, Diallo, Joseph, Hayes, Stewart, Lyles, Jackson, and Lee are all projected for at least 8% ownership right now. What's the dream here? Trying to get as many of the closing lineup guys correct as possible, given the fact that all 9 of them could be in that closing lineup, since the closing lineup could be a 30-point game.
Yeah, and even if it's a competitive game, you really have no idea who it is between Hayes and Joseph and possibly Lee. You have no idea who it is between Stewart and Lyles. If the game's competitive, you can feel confident that the closing lineup includes Bay and Cunningham. Other than that, no idea. So I think, like, I don't want more than one of Stewart, Lyles, because they're both expensive enough that I'm not really happy with, a 24-24 split. I don't think I want more than one of Joseph and Hayes. Played alongside each other some last game, but I don't think they close alongside each other. I probably would just want one of Hayes, Joseph, Lee. Definitely not more than 2.
Yeah. And
I definitely don't want 2 of Hayes and Lee. So max 1 Hayes, Lee, max 2. Or I guess just max 1 Hayes, Lee works. I don't think I would get a lot of Hayes, Joseph together anyway. And then I don't think I want Jackson and Diallo together.
How many points are you looking for if you want to play Isaiah Stewart and Trey Lyles together?
I just don't want to. I don't think they're both at price points where, like, I don't think that getting 21 minutes or 22 minutes from one of them works.
I'm with you. That one to me just doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think it's easier to just not go for that particular combination. So do you have anything else you want to talk about for the Detroit Pistons?
No, I would prefer to just never talk about them again.
Yeah, you and me both. It's not fun. Well, luckily, we're on to a real fun team to talk about. That would be the Golden State Warriors, who are also 14-point favorites taking on this garbage Pistons team. By the way, hit the like button. We need to get up over 100, only at 80 right now. So for Golden State, we have no Draymond. Steph is available for this one, so that is helpful. We have no James Wiseman, clearly. Q tag on Moody, Q tag on Gary Payton, which I do think is important. And then obviously Clay here for this one. Curry, 40% owned on DraftKings, 50 on FanDuel. I don't have much to add here. You clearly, raw point ceiling matters on a day like today. Wiggins is 5,800 on FanDuel. He's pulling 50% ownership. I think that's fully warranted. Might be one of the better plays of the day. 6,700 on DraftKings looks good, but Poole, Thompson, Porter, Looney, Cumbucket, Iguodala, all basically 20% owned. Let's just get Steph out of the way now. Just a great play one way or the other.
Yeah, finally. I mean, it seems like it's been so long since we've been able to really endorse playing Steph, but there's
all it takes is a 2-game slate against the Pistons to do it.
Right, yeah. There's none of the other top end guys. You've got the matchup against the Pistons. Everything looks really good for him here. You know, obviously there's blowout risk, but pretty good chance that he does well in whatever minutes he's on the floor before the blowout. So, yeah, Steph looks great. I think pretty obviously the top guy from this team.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing, what, 2/3 of the game in the first 3 quarters of that ass beating. If he's never playing in the fourth, stands to reason he's probably just shooting the lights out too.
Right.
And you could be perfectly fine with a 50 bag out of Steph today at 10-6, given this slate. Like,
yeah, and if he goes for like 60, you need it.
If anybody hits 60, they have to be in the optimal lineup today, basically by default. You would have to have some really crazy like overtime scoring and stuff. And if it's anybody other than Curry or Towns, by default, 60 gets you there. So
right.
All right, let's talk about the rest of this team. Who is your number one priority that isn't Steph?
I don't know. Yeah, they all like just look similar. Wiggins looks fine. Porter looks fine. Thompson looks fine. Kuminga looks fine. Particularly if Payton's out, like, and you take him out of the rotation. But yeah, I don't see much that like stands out against each other than Steph.
Like, I want to say that it's Iggy at 3,300, but he's already 24% owned. It's not like I'm unearthing some sort of like fun play. Gary Payton's priced up. I mean, like, all of these guys are sort of like slightly overpriced given the amount of minutes we think they're all priced for each other to get to their ceiling, which is tough for Golden State. I hate trying to figure this out. Is there anybody from Golden State you definitely don't want?
Well, hang on. And if Payton's out, are we assuming Poole still starts?
I would guess, right? We're going to go Curry, Poole, Thompson, question mark, Looney. Does Poole come off the bench in that scenario? And they
right,
go to,
so
like,
it depends.
Payton
So like last game, Poole started and Curry was out. The game before that, Poole started and Thompson was out.
Steph, Clay, and Kevon Looney are starting this game no matter what. That much we know.
So all that we can really go on in the second half against Milwaukee on the 13th, that's the game where Gary Payton started and got hurt. They started the second half with Curry, Poole, Thompson, Wiggins, Looney.
Oh, yeah, shit. I didn't even mention Wiggins. Wiggins, I don't even know how I missed it. Wiggins is absolutely starting too. So we have one spot up in the air between Poole or Payton, basically, right?
Or Porter.
Yeah, I guess, or Porter.
My guess is that they go with the same lineup that they did against Milwaukee.
Yeah, my guess is they don't give a shit because it's the Pistons.
Also correct. They could just throw, I mean, we just named who it's between. They could throw some guy I've never heard of in there, and it would be like, yeah, that's the Warriors.
It's 749 in San Francisco right now. Steve Kerr hasn't thought about it.
Right, yeah. If Jordan Poole starts, so if Payton is out and Poole is starting at 6K, he looks pretty good.
Yeah, agreed. If Payton is in, Poole off the bench becomes a little problematic at 6K.
Yeah, for sure.
If Payton is out, how interesting is Damian Lee at 3,500, shooting guard, small forward?
He's okay. Like, I would guess he plays like 18 minutes or something.
Yeah. I got him in for 10 right now. Nothing really interesting, but if you can get him up to 18 at that price tag, given the eligibilities, I think that starts to work you right into some sort of viable value option. I don't know what to do with Bielitsa or the bucket or Iggy, even already at 25% ownership. I think rules are more important than anything else for Golden State, and Curry, Wiggins, Clay, probably don't need to be involved in any of that stuff. Like you'll take whatever you get. 5,500 for Clay. Like you want him to have like a day where he goes crazy. I just don't know if he's going to be out there for enough minutes. I wish you were priced so like you had to get 40% of them. Just,
I mean, I am for sure interested at 5,500.
So am I. But I mean, how many minutes do you think he's playing? I got him in for 24.
Yeah, 24.
Okay. Yeah, he's fine.
He has a 34% usage rate so far.
I don't get the sense that's going to continue after game one.
Yeah, I mean, what's he been individually by game? Do you know?
I have no idea.
I'll find it.
I mean, I have him at like 20 for the game or 24 for the game or something. Yeah, 24 for the game. So,
well, he's exceeded that in every single game of the season so far.
I think they're just getting him the goods here. He could roast the Pistons here in 24 minutes, and it'd be fun to see.
Yeah. I mean, in his 4 games, he's at 41.8, 37.3, 25.8, and 30.8.
Mr. Wood asked, could you see Curry playing sub 20 minutes? Only if he's hurt.
Yeah. Maybe he gets in foul trouble and then the game blows out. Like, yeah, no.
I'll bet my life that Steve Kerr is not taking out Curry for foul trouble in the first half against the Pistons. Don't think he needs to put him on ice here. Hey, Steph, just don't reach for 3 minutes, man.
Yeah,
yeah no. If he doesn't get hurt, it's impossible for him to play less than 20 minutes. Just full on impossible. So don't even bother thinking about it like that. Rules for this team. What do you do?
It's such a mess because their rotations are just all over the place. All right, so what was the last game they played? Minnesota. All right, so I don't want more than one of Looney, Bielitsa. They typically aren't really playing alongside each other.
Yeah.
I would say max one of, I mean, this won't matter because like if Peyton's out, Lee looks okay. If Peyton's in, Lee doesn't look that good. But certainly wouldn't want Peyton and Lee together. Probably don't want more than 2 of Porter, Iggy, Kuminga, Toscano, Anderson.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And the only reason I say 2 is because it's a 2-game slate. Like ideally, I don't want more than 1. But
is there anything else we could even talk about here for Golden State?
I don't really think so.
Is Kemba Walker the biggest piece of news on this slate?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
The Peyton news matters, but it's more so just kind of like moving around rotation pieces. The Kemba news has the potential to change like 4 different plays on that team.
Particularly on FanDuel, where it turns Kemba into like one of the 5 best plays on the slate. Right. Well, injury report show coming up later today. Plus,
yeah,
GPP
Greg and I'll
videos.
have that out around 1:30. Tournament plays will be out. Abbreviated version of tournament plays will be out around 1. Don't think I can come up with 5 top tournament plays today, but yeah, those will both be out.
Alrighty, and then deeper dive. You're back running this one back with Laffy later tonight. Enjoy that one.
Someone said seems like a dabble in NHL kind of day. $200 buy-in, $100K to first, filling soon.
There it is. Shouts to No House Advantage for being the presenting sponsor. Hit that like button on your way out the door. Thank you guys for joining us. Have some fun tonight. Win some money. Back again tomorrow morning. Doing it all one more time. Peace.